Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bhavita Vishruta Putro Navamo Brahmano Gunai Ya Etam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purushishyati Purayishti Bhavita Vishruta Putro Navamo Brahmano Gunai Yaritam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purayishati. Navamo Brahmano Gunai Yaretam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purayishati. Vita Vishruta Putro Namo Brahmano Gunai Yaretam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purayishati. Bhavita Vishruta Putro Navamo Brahmano Gunai Yaretam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purayishati. Mothers. Bhavita Vishruta Putro Navamo Brahmano Gunai Yeritam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purayishati. Bhavita Vishruta Putro Navamo Brahmano Gunai Yeritam Atmaviryena Trilokim Purayishati. Bhavita. There will be Vishruta, very famous, Putra, son, Anavama, not inferior, Brahmana, to Lord Brahma, Gunai, by qualifications, Ya, who, Etam, all this, Atmaviryena, by his progeny, Trilokim, the three worlds, Purayishati, will fill. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: you will have a nice son who will be in no way inferior to Lord Brahma. Consequently, he will be very famous all over the universe, and the sons and grandsons generated by him will fill the three worlds. Purport: as explained in the next verse, the Prachetas will marry the daughter of the great sage Kandu. It is suggested that the son's name will be Vishruta, and that he will glorify both his father and mother because of his good character. In fact, he will be greater than Lord Brahma. The great politician Chanakya said that if there is a good tree within a garden or forest, its flowers will fill the forest with their fragrance. Similarly, A good son within the family makes the whole family famous all over the world. Krishna took birth in the family of the Yadus, and consequently the Yadu dynasty is famous all over the world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Giranjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Panchakalpaturubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Berevacha Patita Nam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Seek the blessings of all these simple devotees, especially Pritu Prabhu, Mother Dana Kali. It's like pressure. So the Supreme Lord is speaking to the Prachetas and speaking of all the auspicious things that will come to them due to their devotional austerities. So here we're hearing that they would have the fortune of having a good child who will bring fame to the whole family because of his good character. Prabhupada didn't give much I don't know about Vishruta will be his name, it is suggested here. And the analogy is given that in a forest, if there is one tree that smells very fragrant, then that whole forest will become glorified because of the fragrance of that one tree. And this is being mentioned here. So similarly, when there is one good son in the family, son or daughter we can say, then that whole family becomes glorified as a result of that one good son. Just like, for example, Prahlad Maharaj, even though the lineage in his family, at least his immediate family was not very good. Father Hiranyakashipu, uncle Hiranyaksha, and his mother also, she's more infamous and famous. So although the family is not so much, may not be considered very much commendable, but because of Prahlad Maharaj's glory, the whole family becomes glorified. That is a simple example. So, and it is mentioned here that the method by which such a putra or putri brings fame to the family is, Prabhupada is pointing out, is by their good character. Then they bring fame. So then the opposite is also true. If there is one tree in the forest that smells very bad, then the whole forest will get the benefit of that that bad smell, and then the whole forest will become ridiculed. Similarly, if there is one bad son in the family, then the whole family becomes ridiculed as a result. And then the method by which they bring the family down is their bad character. Another example will be Vena, King Vena, for example. Because of his bad character, his father was a Mahabhagavata, specifically pointing out in the Bhagavatam. His father, so that's pretty exalted to be a Mahabhagavata devotee. But because of Vena's bad character, and because he made his influence very well known across the planet, so it brings infamy to the whole family. By his bad character. He would be playing games with his friends, and if he would lose the game, he would just kill them. That was his character. He didn't like losing, immediately he would just kill them. So if he shall say to you, "You want to play a game?" No, thank you. Because I might win. So this is because of his bad character, he brings infamy to the whole. So then, simple point. Srila Prabhupada is noted for saying in the preface of the Bhagavad Gita, if he could make even one pure devotee, he would consider his whole mission a success. Because that one pure devotee will bring fame to the whole lineage. Another example is Srila Prabhupada. Practically speaking, before the merciful, administrative, empowered preaching work of Srila Prabhupada in the Western world, hardly anyone could care anything about Vaishnavism, of any sort, for any parampara. No one cared anything. And after Srila Prabhupada's super empowered administrative preaching work, Now the whole world is knowing about Vaishnavism. Even if they don't, even other Sampradayas are glorified because of Srila Prabhupada's work. Otherwise, no one was carrying Sri Sampradaya, no one knowing all these things. Tattvavadis, no one knew about all these other Sampradayas. But because of Srila Prabhupada's great power and powerful preaching work, his exalted character, so now the whole Vaishnava lineage has become glorified. So then it is suggested, so Prabhupada has made this point, if even one pure devotee can be made, then I will consider the whole mission a success. So from that we may take the point that it is necessary to cultivate the qualities by which we can bring fame to the Sampradaya. Otherwise, I mentioned this point many times before, but it is mentioned that the life of religion are saintly people. Saintly, that is a life of religion. Just like the life of the material body is a spirit soul. If there is no spirit soul in the body, then the body becomes immediately abominable. Right? No one wants to have anything to do with that body. And also the body begins to decompose, maggots, all these things. It smells very bad, etc. So similarly, the life of religion, or you can say the life of the Sampradaya, Acharya Sampradaya, the life are the saintly persons who actually exist in such a Sampradaya. They bring life to the Sampradaya. And if there shall be no such saintly persons, such persons endowed with all wonderful qualities, then immediately that religion, that Sampradaya, becomes immediately abominable for the rest of the world. They don't want to have anything to do with it. Bad smell is coming out in the form of various sectarianism, in the form of various, like you see, abuse, all these things happen. Why did it happen? Because devoid of saintly persons. Then no one will want to have anything to do with religion. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur also has mentioned, this is just coming to my mind, that of all types of bad sangha, there are many types of bad sangha in the material world. Mayavadis, atheists mentioned, the opposite sex, those attached to the opposite sex, sense enjoyers, those attached to sense enjoyers. Practically speaking, whole planet is satsanga. Practically speaking, and then one he mentions is Dharma Dwaji. Dharma Dwaji means one who waves a flag of Dharma. Externally, he shows himself as devotee, as saintly person, but internally, fool number one. Internally, fool number one, Dharma Dwaji. And we know the ill effects of associating with a sense enjoyer. They have all bad qualities because as soon as their sense gratification is not satisfied, they immediately exhibit their true nature. Like Putana, Pralambasura. Pralambasura looked like cowherd boy, isn't it? And then he was playing with Krishna, all these things. And then Balaram, he purposely played on Krishna's team because he said, I don't want to have to fight with Krishna, I might be defeated. Krishna will kill me. So he played on Balaram's team, or Krishna's team, and Krishna's team lost as the arrangement of Krishna. And he had to carry Balaram on his back. And then he thought, this would be easy kill. I will go and kill Balaram. And Balaram was in, ecstasy, so he didn't even realize it was a demon. He's all knowing, of course, but he didn't realize. Finally, he was wondering, why are you taking me so deep into the forest? What is going on here? Then immediately he kind of said, this is a demon. So he immediately became heavier. And Guru means heavy. He immediately became heavy, and then his true nature came out. Pralamasur. So similarly, we're like that. We appear to be like a nice cowherd boy or cowherd girl, very innocent, very devotional. But then as soon as the situation shall be appropriate for manifesting our true nature, immediately we show our fangs and our sharp ears and our bat wings, etc. This is a fact. This is a fact. We have no good qualities. No good qualities demonic. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur mentions this thing, that of all types of bad sangha that have in this world, is that the sangha of a Dharma Dwaji is the worst. It is the worst sangha to have. He said it is better to associate with a sense enjoyer than to associate with a Dharma Dwaji. That's heavy. That's very heavy. And then of the Dharma Dwajis, there are two types mentioned, the cheaters and the cheated. Both are called as Dharma Dwajis. The cheaters are those who purposely, with crooked mentality, manipulate the masses of innocent people. And the other type, the cheated, are foolish persons who lack sufficient, let's say, investigative spirit to actually understand what is the truth of the thing. Immediately they become bewildered by nice kathas given, some nice pravachan, a charismatic speakers there. He cracks many jokes. They feel very immediately attached. He's treating them like anything, but they don't care to ask any questions. They don't care to investigate. These are called fools. So they're also called as dharmadwajis. Both are cheaters and cheated. The hypocrite and the foolish person. Both are called dharmadwajis. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, it is better to associate with a sin enjoyer than to associate with such people. That's very heavy because we may have to consider to what degree I may be slipping into that category. Because now we have all courageously adorned the dress of a Vaishnava. It takes great courage because, for example, if I were to tell you before you took initiation, by initiation, this means you must go to a conference and represent the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. How many of us will feel prepared to do so? Like Bhaktisiddhanta went to this meeting of all smarta brahmanas to defeat them. So suppose you were sent on behalf of Bhaktisiddhanta. Who would be courageous enough to do that? I'll go on your behalf, Bhaktisiddhanta. Immediately you will feel afraid. No, never mind. So we've all courageously adorned the dress of a Vaishnava. That means now it's incumbent upon us to actually become Vaishnava with all transcendental qualities. Otherwise, immediately our being a part of a religious movement shall actually cause a very abominable stench to come out, and no one will be attracted. Of course, it is a fact that people in this world are not interested in God. That's a fact. So even when one is properly situated and one tries to preach, many do not become attracted. But Srila Prabhupada has said in 1.2.16 on Bhagavatam, a class he gives on this, he mentions that people not being attracted to the Krishna consciousness movement is not just their fault. He mentioned it specifically. He said it is a fault of the preachers that they have not been able to create taste in the people, not being able to create taste. And one reason may be, in context of what I'm mentioning from Srila Prabhupada's purport, is we lack the necessary qualities by which they can be attracted genuinely. We may be able to bamboozle them with some fancy philosophy, because practically speaking, in the material world, even person's deepest convictions are so shallow. So it doesn't take much to bamboozle them. You give a sharp argument, and then immediately they feel bewildered. Immediately you can establish them on some other platform. But we won't be able to maintain such persons unless we actually become Vaishnava. We may be able to bamboozle them with good kirtan. Like yesterday, everyone was very joyfully participating in kirtan. People will become attracted. Of course, Krishna Prasadam, they become attracted. And we have good philosophy, they become attracted. And we can be nice whenever our mental concoction is a little bit settled. We can be a little bit nice. So we can easily attract them, bamboozle them. But if we don't actually become Vaishnava, how will we maintain them? It would be a very impossible thing. You're not maintaining. So many devotees will go away after some time if we don't actually become Vaishnava. So we have to develop good character. Otherwise, tendency to degrade into the category of dharmadwaji and cause persons to become unattracted to the Krishna consciousness movement. And that way we bring infamy to Srila Prabhupada and to the Sampradaya. So it's imperative that we develop the good character. Now, who can have good character? That is also mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavata kinchana sarvaigunais tatu samasute sura harava bhaktasya mahaguna manorite nasato davatobihi. I don't know. That verse, I don't get the chance to quote so much, I don't remember. Who can have good character? It is mentioned. That person who has the qualities of all the devatas, including the Supreme Lord, that person is a kinchana devotee. Bhagavati, a kinchana. One who is a kinchana devotee, he actually has all the good qualities. Many times we just say a devotee has all the good qualities, and sometimes the mind deludes us into thinking, oh, therefore I'm having all the good qualities. But it mentioned a certain type of devotee has all the good qualities. And not everyone. Just like Krishna says in Gita, I'm just making a Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddha yogam tam yinamam puyanti te. Krishna says, I will give the intelligence, divine, divya buddhi, divine intelligence, but not to everyone, not to every devotee. Sometimes someone is thinking, Krishna, I feel the connection with Super Soul. Krishna is directing me in this sort of way. But he said, and then they'll quote this verse from Bhagavad Gita. But it does not mean for every devotee Krishna is doing like that. Not for every. Teisham means a category of persons. Not every person, not every devotee. So similarly, not every devotee, it means those who will be thinking of themselves as devotee, will be having all the good qualities. A certain type of devotee has all the good qualities. A kinchana devotee. A kinchana means one who is without material possessions. He does not feel that he's possessing anything in this world. Or that's the negative side. The positive side means he feels he only possesses his relationship with Krishna. This is called the kinchana devotee. What does it mean to possess my relationship with Krishna and devotee? It means to be the possessor of my service to Krishna. To possess my relationship with Krishna is a relationship of service. Krishna is the master and I am the servant. The devotee is the master and I am the servant. So to be a kinchana means he feels I only possess my service to Krishna. I have no other possession. Just like, for example, Kulavetra Sridhar, when Mahaprabhu was performing Mahaprakash Leela. So Mahaprabhu wanted to glorify Kulavetra Sridhar. So anyway, I'm not going to go through all the glories. I'm not the best storyteller. But in the end, he asked Kulavetra Sridhar, what benediction you want? Mahaprabhu in his youth, he would go and bother Kulavetra Sridhar on purpose. Kulavetra Sridhar was very poor brahmana. He would have holes, it was basically like holes inside his holes. He would have like holes and he would like try to stitch it up, and then the thing he stitched up, that would have a hole in it. Very poor, nothing. He had no facility. And he would worship Mother Ganga. This is the standard for grihastas, understand? I asked this tomorrow. We many times we hear the grihastas should get 50%. It's mentioned. That's a fact for spiritual purification. So they say, well, Rupa Goswami, he gave after he retired. So when I retired, I also get 50%. That is true. Rupa Goswami is the example for those who are retired. But Kulavetra Sridhar is the example for grihastas, understand? So he was giving 50%. This is an important point. I mean, one may not appreciate it, but it is an important point. I asked this point to Maharaj because Maharaj also mentioned. He said, well, Rupa Goswami gave to retire. I said, yes, Maharaj, but Kulavetra Sridhar gave during grihasta life. And he was making, how much? 10 paisa. We don't even know what a paisa is. That's how less it is. Less than a penny. 10 paisa. And 5 paisa he would give to the worship of Ganga. 50%. This is the test of Vishnu Bhakti. That is what is mentioned in Chaitanya Bhagavatam. This is the test. So he would give 50%. And then, so he was very poor, nothing he had. And he was selling banana leaves or anything coming from the banana tree, he would sell. Then Mahaprabhu would come and he would ask, okay, I want this one. And Kulavetra Sridhar would say something like 2 paisa. Mahaprabhu, what is this? So much you're charging for the for the banana leaf? Kulavetra Sridhar is 2 paisa. What are you talking about? He said, I refuse to pay. He would just snatch it and go. And Kulavetra said, what are you doing? In this way, he would have pastimes with Kulavetra Sridhar. He would bother him in this way, repeatedly. He said, what type of cheater are you? You're such a cheater. I'm taking this, and he would go and run off. And daily, he would do like this to Kulavetra Sridhar. So when Kulavetra Sridhar was in the Mahaprakash Leela, Mahaprabhu was giving benedictions freely. What benediction do you want? What did he ask for? He asked only for that benediction to repeatedly see that boy Nimai coming to bother him in this way. That was only I have no other benediction. Mahaprabhu said, I will give you so much of opulence, so many things I will give you. No, I only want this benediction, that every day I can see that young Nimai coming down the path, to bother me. This is a kinchana devotee. He actually called a kinchana, Kulavetra Sridhar. That he only feels that he possesses his service to Krishna. So he does not desire anything else. So that type of devotee will be having all the wonderful qualities. Because even in the face of adversity, he will never leave the lotus feet of Krishna. Because he thinks that's my only possession. That is my greatest wealth. That is real devotee. He will have all the good qualities. So just for example, this nice verse from the Bhagavatam that establishes this point very beautifully. I'll read it. Do tatma purusha Krishna padamula namunchati mukta sarva pariklesha panta swasharanam yata. I'll read the translation because Prabhupada's translation is very poetic. A pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of Krishna. Why not? for they fully satisfy him. And then an example is given, Panta Sosharanam Yuta, as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. This example is given. As a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. The way Prabhupada likes to develop the purport here is that he uses the example of preachers meeting with many difficulties and miseries in order to preach the message of Krishna consciousness. A completely miserable situation sometimes. But they never, even in the most heavy adversity, they never relinquish the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna Paramulam Namunchati. They never relinquish the lotus feet of Krishna. Why? Because they fully satisfy them. Now, this has to be a little bit, before they fully satisfy them, it's not like a sense gratification thing. The example is given, just as when a parent, let's say, when he leaves, he goes to a far distance place, Prabhupada describes in this way, for gaining so many things for his family. And during his travels, he meets with so many miserable conditions. And many think this is suffering. But immediately when the thought of his family comes to him, the affectionate thought of his family comes to him, he immediately feels satisfied. Why? Knowing that he is doing this for their satisfaction. That is just to help give some ideas. It's not a perfect example, but to help give some ideas. So in the same way, the devotee, even in the greatest adversity, he never relinquishes the lotus feet of Krishna. Why? Because the Lord is satisfied. This is the service he wants from me. I'm satisfied. He is satisfied because he knows that the Lord is satisfied by me doing this service. Or, as Prabhupada says in the purport, because he's ordered by the spiritual master this particular service, so even if I shall meet with the greatest difficulty, I will never leave that service. Because this is the service that the spiritual master, Krishna, is satisfied. He wants to see me rendering this particular service. Understand? Without this type of consciousness, no question of good qualities. Haravabha Tashakata Mahaguna Matoriti. The Manorata will not allow us to manifest any good character. Will not allow. And Manorata means always oscillating, like a, pendulum machine. This pendulum machine. Always, this is good. This is not good. This is good. This is not good. Non-stop. Manorata, this is called Manorata. Dvaita Bhajra Brajagana Sabha Manodharma. Conceptions of good and bad is simply mental speculation. And mental speculation. But we know that we're still, this is good. This is not good. This is good. This is not good. This service of Krishna is good. This service of Krishna is not good. This devotee is, okay. This devotee is definitely not okay. Always oscillating like this. No question of good qualities. No question of good qualities. Immediately, you, on the Manorata, as soon as you go to this side where it's not good, immediately demoniac quality come out. Pralambasura. Immediately you manifest. Just like Hiranyakashipu is described when he picked up Prahlad with great affection, with tears in his eyes. So someone thinks, I am crying for Krishna. That doesn't mean you're not a demon. Understand? It doesn't mean you're not a demon. He had tears in his eyes, tears coming out. And the Bhagavatam describes, Narada Muni described me, he said with great humility, he asked Prahlad Maharaj, what is the best of all subject matters you learned, Prahlad? Great humility, tears in his eyes. He was smelling the head of Prahlad. That's an affectionate expression in Vedic culture, apparently. Like that, he was showing affection. Immediately, Prahlad Maharaj said, the best of, because Hiranyakashipu said, I want to know what you learned from your teachers. So he was thinking Prahlad's teachers were Shanda and Amarka. And Prahlad Maharaj was thinking, my teacher is Narada Muni. So he said, I should tell him what I've learned from my teacher, Narada Muni. So he said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. As soon as he heard that word Vishnu, he just threw him on the ground. What happened to the tears in the eyes, all the affection, all the tears, all the humility? Immediately destroyed, right? Manorata, conception of good and bad. He thought Vishnu was bad, he immediately threw him down. So in other words, Krishna, it may be seen, if Krishna is so merciful, then why would he allow his devotee to suffer? Many times people have this doubt when entering upon the Krishna conscious movement. If Krishna, it's like Prabhupada says in 4th canto, that sometimes my disciples ask me, why have I become sick after taking to the Krishna consciousness movement? And Prabhupada said, my non-sister disciples don't know that even I am getting sick. There's some down there writing a letter to Prabhupada. I've joined the Krishna. Why am I becoming sick? So sometimes people have this doubt. I thought after coming to Krishna consciousness, everything will be blissful. That is the chant and be happy. Chant and your life will be sublime. Of course, it requires so much of purport. That's what we learn after we join. So why does it seem that Krishna apparently allows his devotees to suffer, actually to glorify them? It's a special type of glorification. Why is it a special type of glorification? Because good character, let's say good character shines more brightly on the black backdrop of adversity than on the bright backdrop of prosperity. Understand? Just like when you have black paper and you use yellow crayon, then it shines very brightly. It sticks out, doesn't it? But if you use yellow paper and yellow crayon, nothing sticks out, isn't it? It doesn't make any difference. You cannot tell what is going on. So that black backdrop is a special way for Krishna to highlight the bright quality of his devotee, the black backdrop of adversity. Then when there's prosperity, then everyone looks like very nice, everything is wonderful, everything is blissful. But then when Krishna changes scenes, the black backdrop, then those who have black hearts, we merge into the blackness. And those who are actually having the bright yellow color of good character, they shine brightly. So Krishna purposely, this actually is required, even for spiritual existence. Material world is a training ground for spiritual life with Krishna. Those who are interested only in their own happiness and bliss, that is all of us, of course, but without any interest of cultivating the pure devotional idea as disseminated in the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, then we will get a position where God remains at a distance. Understand? That means, even all the way up to Narayana form, one remains at a distance. And they can enjoy the bliss and happiness of course, worshiping the Lord. But only when we can... Only another type of training allows us to come closer to Krishna and his devotees. This training, the training that gives Krishna the liberty to do as he likes, and without me complaining about what's happening. Only that type of training will allow us to actually develop the Krishna consciousness that is being discussed in the Gaudiya tradition. Otherwise, if we are always bewildered by, this is bad, this is good, like that, no question of coming closer to Krishna and his devotees. There's no question of relationship. If you don't give that freedom in relationship, no question of relationship. Soon as it shall become a little bit troubled situation, change of scene, immediately relationship broken. Just yesterday, actually, one student, I've known him for a long time now. Anyway, in short, he had this, of course, many friends I have like this. He got married, and like within 2-3 months, wife filed for divorce. 2-3 months, the wife filed for divorce. Very heavy situation. And why? Because she felt that she wasn't given, she wanted her womanly freedom, her womanly independence. And he was like he grew up in a very traditional family. So his whole concept was like give protection, all these things. And she felt that was suffocating her, etc. So after 2-3 months, divorce. Like this, immediately. The material conception of life is so polluted that at a drop of a dime, everything is destroyed. Immediately. The dime doesn't even have to drop. Just the person looks like he's about to drop the dime, relationship finished. He just he's about to drop, I'll finish it out first. This is the material conception of life, so polluted like that. So then if we don't get over that tendency, no question of Krishna consciousness. No question. Therefore, at that point, practically speaking, whole first 9 cantos, this message is repeated again and again and again and again. Why is message repeated? The reason, that type of training Bhagavatam is trying to give us. There's no question of oscillating between good and bad. No question. If we want to develop the really good character, Krishna wants to see, okay, yellow backdrop is there, everything looks nice. Let me change the backdrop to see who is really shining brightly. Understand? So that is required if we want if we want to actually come into the Krishna conscious platform. And that way, we have the ecstatic character by which we bring glory to the whole sampradaya, and the relationships are blissful. But the bliss is not the bliss is not in what's going on. That is why it's a hard thing to understand what it is, because we think the happiness of the relationship is in, like in the material world. I love you, sweetie. I love you too. And that's the whole. Just like we have this, the 6 types of loving exchanges. The 6 types of loving exchanges are there. But those 6 types of loving exchanges are not the love. They're an expression of the loving sentiments, but it's not the love. It's not an external feature. Love is something internal. It's deeper than that. So similarly, the bliss is not in what's happening circumstantially. That's not where the bliss is at. But it's hard to actually conceptualize that in the beginning. It is something much more profound. And in order to come to that platform of being able to exist in that type of relationship, then training has to be given. So the material world is training ground for that. We will have to experience this thing to actually develop the positive Krishna consciousness required for positive Krishna conscious relationship. I had another point that I wanted to make, but I forgot it, so I'm going to end there. And if anyone wants to add to the discussion or ask anything or say anything, okay. Yeah.
I was just inspired by the discussion to think of some, because we had been hearing about one devotee from the New Vrindavan community, Prabhupada disciple. And there are so many that came from that community that are like, the blazing suns of ISKCON, but to speak of like shining stars. So they, they just followed Prabhupada's instructions to serve, in this way. And you may say, like, some people may question, like, why all these things, they didn't say anything, or why didn't they try to stop somebody, like all this kind of stuff. But, that's not what would have given them the character that they had when they came out of that situation. So it's like, it's amazing the way that Krishna and Srila Prabhupada orchestrated things, for these Vaishnavas. And it makes our situation look like, rinky-dink thing that we can't put up with, Yeah. So
some extra pots come and I'm like completely pissed.
Yeah. And these devotees, like, some of the things that they had to go through, we don't even want to think about it. But so I was just appreciating that, and sometimes we question these things, but Krishna has an arrangement, and the people who, like you said, the yellow crayons will show up on the black background, or they'll be enhanced even by these things.
Thank you for the comment. Anyone else want to say anything? Okay.
Swinging back and forth. It's like, I like this person because he reminds me of good quality traits that I might have, and I don't like this person because he reminds me of the bad things, the quality traits I wish I didn't have. So I like that comment. The pendulum swinging back and forth.
No, that's our practical experience. Okay, Jitendra wants to say something.
I remember Prabhupada saying, don't think everybody's to your liking. At the Evanston Temple, the temple president said, in a day-to-day relationship, I would probably have nothing to do with any of you, but since we're trying to serve Krishna and Srila Prabhupada, we must learn to tolerate each other.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you help me to understand the specific area you're saying we shouldn't judge good or bad, because we're constantly faced with having to make decisions where something's going to be either favorable for our service or not, and that requires assessment and judgment, moment to moment. So how does one go about that?
Well, for one thing, favorable and unfavorable activities or mindsets for devotional service differ on different stages of devotional service. What is favorable on one stage of devotional service may be unfavorable on another stage of devotional development. So it's not black and white. So generally, in the beginning stages of devotional service, bhajana kriya means that stage of devotional service. Then favorable activity begins with having the humility to accept the guidance of a properly edified devotee. Generally, language we use is spiritual master. And then we have to be, makes it powerful if we're given a service by them. Then we're not to become robots. Then it is going to be incumbent upon us to use our initiative to understand how to carry out that service. But practically I've seen here amongst the devotees in our temple is that there's a strong predilection for doing things that they want to do. And it's not like there's a great focus on the particular services that are assigned to them. So then what they're doing is basically concocting that this is my service to Krishna because this is what I want to do, which is not, properly not the proper application in our stage of devotional service. Therefore, if one is thinking in that way, you will not be able to access because it is outside the scope of bona fide authority at our stage of development. I've seen that with many of the devotees here in the ashram, that there's things that they want to do. So many times they may ditch programs or come late because they want to do something which they've designated in their minds as devotional service to Krishna, which may actually not be the fact. I've seen it amongst practically everyone in the ashram. So in that way, we will always find ourselves in a bewildered state of mind because it's something we want to do. It is outside the actual authority. And then we're going to meet with many difficulties, no doubt. And the mind comes into a bewildered state. So at our stage of devotional development, it is important for us to accept the designated services and try to carry those out immaculately, exquisitely. And then at later stages of devotional development, then it may be another thing that is favorable or unfavorable, So it is not clear. So in the beginning, that my point is accepting authority. And then if there's any confusion, you can consult, as Parikshit Maharaj sets the example for that. He decided to fast until death at the bank of the Ganga. And when the sages arrived, he consulted them to see if this was a good decision, like that. So it is important for us to develop satisfaction in the services that we're given. I've heard many devotees say here how the various programs of the temple are interfering with their services. Can you believe that? Nonsense. These so many activities are given to keep us from becoming bewildered. But we're saying that, so many services are actually cutting into my Krishna conscious program. Understand? Nonsense. This is nonsense. So many programs given for neophyte devotees because we will deviate. But we're thinking, it is cutting into my program of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we don't have a consciousness. I mentioned that verse Bhagavatam I mentioned. No question of Krishna consciousness. And then, in order to, I accept that point. So I'll make sure I'll attend all the various programs, etc. But I'm so hell-bent on doing what I want to do that I'll spoil my own body and mind to fulfill that order. You understand what I'm saying? Doing things at our stage of development, actually at every stage of development, the principle for smooth Krishna conscious attainment, that principle is called Yukta Vairagya. You know Yukta Vairagya? Yukta Vairagya means don't take too much, don't take too little, like that. Don't sleep too much, don't sleep too little. This is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. This is Yukta Vairagya principle. But instead of sincerely accepting that principle, we imitate great souls. On another stage, we think it is favorable. And then we end up destroying. We may not see in the beginning how it is destroying, but at later stages, it will be completely devastated. No question of Krishna consciousness. The path given by the Mahajans is the path that is most easy and auspicious for the conditioned soul. There's a verse like that, I don't remember it right now. And we shall deviate from that path of auspiciousness. Then that is like being in a forest, and instead of taking the already, cemented path that'll help you walk through the forest, we tell, this path looks shorter path, I'll take this path. Then you get lost in the forest, you get bewildered, because forest is very bewildering. There's too many tall trees, and sometimes the sun doesn't come through, you cannot see. But if you stay on the path that has already been made, then it's easy to walk through the forest, not difficult. That is the path of the Mahajans. So there should be no speculation about what is our service to Krishna. At least at our stage, of development, we have sadhu sangha. There's another thing I forgot to mention. Good character is easily understood in sangha of devotees. Understand? Without sangha, no one knows where they're at in their Krishna consciousness. No one can tell in the beginning. It's a fact. One will be thinking, I am so exalted. I am so fixed up in Krishna consciousness. Then a devotee will come and say, Prabhu, wash your dishes. Who are you? You immediately become angry. Don't interfere with my bhajan. I'm absorbed in Krishna conscious ecstasy, and you're interfering with my bhajan, Prabhu. So in that way, the sangha of devotees is to give tests to the real character. We cannot associate with devotees. That is evidence of our lack of Krishna consciousness. Evidence. Just like last night, Bhakti Matt was telling me, I just want to be chill, be with myself outside the sangha of devotees. I can be happy. So I asked him, how will you live in the spiritual world? Where even he was sweeping that time. I said, how will you live in the spiritual world when even the broom is a person? It'd be a very difficult thing. Even your shirt is a conscious entity. How you will live? You will not be able to exist there. You'll be trying to hide in your sleeping bag away from the association, and your sleeping bag will start speaking to you. My dear Prabhu, I'm going back to the material world. At least I can be impersonal there. Without the Sangha of devotees, there's no question of development. Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Prema, Janma Mulahai, Sadhu Sangha. Now, Krishna Bhakti, Janma Mulahai, Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Prema, Janme, Tena Punamukya Anga. Mahaprabhu's teaching that Krishna Bhakti, the root of Krishna Bhakti is Sadhu Sangha. And even after Krishna Prema Janme, even after Krishna Prema manifests itself, Tena Punamukya Anga. That Sadhu Sangha is the Mukya Anga. Mukya Anga means the most essential principle. After Krishna Prema rises, that is the most essential principle. And Mahaprabhu also set up that example in his own life. And we're thinking on the path to Prema, without Sadhu Sangha, I will achieve it. And this way, not following the path of Mahajans, then speculating, is this my service, is that my service, getting confused. So, we make things easier on ourselves if we can follow the line of course, provided we have sufficient faith in the authority. They are sufficiently trustworthy. That is what is favorable at, I would venture to say, our stage of devotional service. That means the stage before anarthas have actually been eradicated. At higher levels of attainment, then that's a different type of discussion. But now we're talking beginning discussion here, not very advanced discussion, beginning discussion. That's my understanding. Understand? Okay, you wanted to say something, is it? Must have not been very important. Yeah, Jitendra wants to make a final comment.
I remember Srila Prabhupada, when he was trying to engage people, he said, what would you like to do for Krishna? And then at a higher stage, would you do this for Krishna? You know what I'm saying? And then as far as associating with devotees, I remember reading if a devotee's exhibiting bad character, you just, pay your obeisances at a distance. So that sangha is kind of limited due to his behavior. So there's some kind of discrimination there, when we're associating with devotees.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's okay. But we should understand that the principle of Sangha is most essential. So then one has to find out what is the Sangha that's going to help. But one cannot think without Sangha I will achieve it. That was my particular emphasis. Like that. You remember, or you have a different question now? You remember now.
Possessiveness doesn't have to do with simply the quantity. So I have many and many less things, but I'm finding I'm still, I think, as attached to less as I was attached to more. And so what do I need to do to progressively detach?
Practice Krishna consciousness in association with devotees. I mean, it's basically as simple as that. Means possession means anything I think is mine, right? So that concept of I and mine that's the main conception that keeps the living entity bound in the material world. So how do I supplement that conception for a spiritual conception? So that is the process of Krishna consciousness, beginning with sadhana bhakti and progressing through various stages. So one does like that. I mean, I don't know if you're looking for like a very fantastic answer, but the process, according to individuals, with the process, it works, but it takes a little bit of time to actually clean out all the dark crevices of misconceptions that's going on. That is going to take a little time. Just like if we have to clean the kitchen, and I mentioned the other day, we have to clean the kitchen. It takes time, right? It's not like you just go in there and walk in and out after a half hour, everything's done. We're in there the whole day, even with congregational help, we're in there the whole day. This corner, that dark corner, you have to remove things, and it's a very, in order for a full cleaning work to be done. So also like that, Krishna consciousness. So this point has to be, the point I'm quoting the verse from, this point has to be imbibed even in the stage of sadhana. That despite the difficulties I will encounter, I will never leave the lotus feet of Krishna. And that way, Krishna is removing all these bad things, and it sometimes feels intense. Tirvana Bhakti Yogin, that's very intense. But he thinks, I will never leave my service because it was assigned by my spiritual master. That's what Prabhupada says in the purport. I'll never leave. And in that way, all the anarthas are going, but we're hanging on to the substance, namely my instruction from the spiritual master, the lotus feet of Krishna. We're hanging on tightly. So then all the anarthas are going, but you're not going, understand? Otherwise, it's like if you get in Ganga, especially and higher when you go to the Himalaya mountains, the river Ganga runs extremely fast. If you want to take a bath in there, they have chains, chains, and then you walk into the Ganga with the chains, and if you let go of the chains, then you'll be in the sea after 5-2 minutes. And the current is extremely fast. I saw a video. I will never do that. I have hydrophobia, so I'll never. But they have to hang on. It's not like you can hang on like this. Like, okay, the river, the current, Ganga has very strong current is there. Even elephants will go under and be dragged away. That's how strong the current is. So if you're hanging on like this to the chain, very lightly hanging, Mother Ganga's like, and then you're down Ganga like that. So you have to hang on tightly to the chain, and the current is going. So similarly, the process of Krishna consciousness is like that strong current. Actually, a strong current. Sometimes we think, I'm not making any progress, because you cannot always experience it. This example was nicely given, that it's just like when you're on an airplane. When you first take off, you can feel it. But after you're in the sky, you don't feel anything, actually. You think, we're not moving at all. When it actually feels like that, it's like, okay, if you want to see if you're moving, go and open the door. As soon as you open the door, immediately you're sucked out, and you die. So like that, the process is working, but you're not able to always experience how we're actually making advance. It's a very subtle thing, subtle. Until we become more subtle, we're not able to understand what is happening exactly. Just like when you eat, you're not able to understand what's going on when you're eating. All you know is once it goes past this part, after that, no knowledge. no knowledge of what is happening. It's the same like with Krishna consciousness. At a certain point, you cannot know directly, and especially because it's a personal process. Krishna is doing things in his own particular way. So the process of Krishna consciousness is like their strong current. Understand? So it's very effective in removing anything that is loose, like anarthas and so on. It can remove. Our business is hanging on tightly to the chain of spiritual master's instruction. I'm taking from the purport that I read today. Prabhupada says this thing. Then you hang on tightly, not loose, tightly you hang on to the chain. Then undercurrent, the process of bhakti is moving, all the narcissism is getting flushed away. But if we hang on loosely to the chain, a narcissism being flushed away, we also get flushed away with the narcissist. So our business hang on tightly to the chain. And then the conceptions get destroyed and spiritual conception becomes erected like that. So there's no, these type of how-to questions, which I'm also, Ramapal Maharaj has often commented that I only ask how-to questions. I don't always ask how-to questions, but most of the time I do. And most of the time the answer is this simple answer only. By progressing from sadhana to sadhya, it happens. So like that. Okay, that's my answer. Does anyone else want to say any final things? About 4 minutes left. No? Srila Prabhupada ki jai.